The first crack in humanity's freedom began long before banks, long before kingdoms, long before the world even understood what money truly was. It was all written quietly, permanently, into Sumerian clay tablets buried under thousands of years of dust. The story begins in ancient Mesopotamia, where the rivers Tigris and Euphrates carved out the world's earliest known civilization. Sumer was a place of temples, harvests, and silent agreements carved into wet clay. But beneath the surface of its proud cities lay something far darker, the blueprint of the first debt-based control system humanity would ever know. For centuries, historians believed these tablets were nothing more than receipts, lists of grain, cattle, and workers. But as archaeologists decoded more symbols, a disturbing pattern emerged. These weren't just records of trade. They were ledgers of power. Each etched wedge told the same hidden story. Someone owed something to someone else. And the debt rarely disappeared. It grew, it expanded, it multiplied, and it bound people in invisible chains stronger than any metal. The temples, supposedly the guardians of spiritual balance, were actually the central banks of their time. They didn't just store grain, they controlled its flow. When a farmer needed seeds, the temple gave them, but not freely. The clay tablets demanded repayment with interest, and if the harvest failed, the debt remained. If the rains didn't come, the debt doubled. If the farmer could not pay, his children, his land, even his own body became collateral. That was humanity's first recorded financial trap. The Sumerian elite discovered a profound truth. If you control debt, you control people. If you control the ledger, you control destiny. With every stroke of a stylus pressed into clay, entire families were pushed deeper into dependence. The ruling class didn't need armies to dominate their subjects. The tablets did the work. Silent, cold, permanent. But something more chilling hid within these records. Something that connects their world to ours. The system didn't collapse. It evolved. The concept of interest on borrowed value, invented in those temples, spread like a shadow. From Sumer to Babylon. From Babylon to Persia. From Persia to Rome. Each empire refined the mechanism, embedding debt into the gears of society. And as the centuries passed, the chains became more invisible and more powerful. In Babylon, debt was so crushing that kings were sometimes forced to erase it entirely. They called it a debt jubilee. But these resets were never mercy. They were maintenance, cleaning the board so the cycle could begin again. By the time Venice rose to power, the debt machine had become nearly unstoppable. Merchants of Venice learned the ancient lesson, money lent is power earned. Bonds replaced clay tablets, but the mechanism remained identical. A piece of paper could command nations, restrict armies, reshape alliances. And in our modern age, this ancient mechanism reached its final perfection. Today, global debt exceeds hundreds of trillions, far more than the world's actual wealth. Nations borrow from institutions that function exactly like Sumerian temples, lending value created from nothing, collecting interest on assets that never truly existed. Digital ledgers have replaced clay tablets, but the architecture is unchanged. Debt doesn't merely record obligation, it manufactures control. Borrow, owe, struggle, depend, obey. Countries don't fall to armies anymore. They fall to deficits. Yet the twist buried in the oldest clay. Tablets is the part that few people ever notice. Money came later. Debt came first? Humanity wasn't driven by a need for trade, but by a need for hierarchy.